sack and I'm in my zone. Got a pack and I'm right back home.
What's good, everybody? What's good? It's your boy, Cardinal Bud Crawford. And we're back for another one. It's another hot, blazing day out here in KY, boy. But we're going to get it in real fast. Okay, new topic, y'all. New topic. Let's get this done real fast. What's the hold up? Super fights fans want to see. Spence Jr. versus Bud Crawford. The Mayweather effect. Alright, y'all. So, man. You know, it's the thing about the internet, man. Here's the thing about the internet. Then we get all the way into the topic. As soon as people get a little bit of information, they just run off with it and try to get as many views as they possibly can before people actually figure out the truth. And so people were reporting that the fight was going to happen in October. It's a near done deal. And then, not even a few hours later, Mayweather comes out. Floyd Mayweather, to be exact. You know, the guy who ruined the sport of boxing. Floyd Mayweather comes out and basically says that the fight's not happening. And I haven't watched the video. I'm not even going to lie to you. Whenever Mayweather's involved, I try to steer clear of it because there's probably some BS involved in it. But, you know, I do want to touch on a topic that I had in my mind. You know, here's the thing about these super fights. It doesn't matter who it is or who's involved, whether it was the Pacquiao Mayweather super fight, whether it's the Terence Crawford Errol Spence super fight, the Errol Spence Canelo super fight that could have happened but probably never will. Whenever it's a super fight attached to a fight, it either never happens or it doesn't happen at the right time. You know, Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr. super fight that never happened until they were like 90 years old and both of them were gagging and stuff in the ring. But, you know, these super fights, they never happen when they're supposed to happen. And fans are the ones who get robbed of the fights they really, really want to see. The fights they're interested in investing in, you know, big money. You know, people, especially that Pacquiao Mayweather fight, if that would have happened the first time it was supposed to happen, I think it would have grossed even more money than it did when it actually happened. You know, I think it would have did even bigger enough. Because you got to remember, back then, people were still buying pay-per-views at a high clip, boxing pay-per-views. So, you know, if they would have put that event on exactly when it was supposed to happen, then I think they would have did some super duper numbers. And they set records for when they did fight, but they would have probably set some unbreakable records, similar to what Manny Pacquiao did in his boxing career. That's neither here nor there. So what is the Mayweather effect in all of this? You know, Mayweather kind of ruined the sport of boxing because he taught people, okay, let's give him a one-up. He brought a lot of money into the game with his villainous personality and the fact that, you know, people tuned in to watch him lose. I never did. I didn't give a... I always knew what Floyd Mayweather was. He was decent as Pretty Boy Floyd. Money Mayweather was a character he created when he started messing around with Vince McMahon in the WWF. So I always knew what Money Mayweather was, so I never invested money in his career until the Pacquiao fight. I did buy that fight and got ripped off like everybody else. Now, the Mayweather effect in all this. What is the Mayweather effect in all this? Well, Mayweather taught people the art of avoiding fights until they were lucrative enough for them. And, you know, people have been saying that both fighters both fan bases have accused each fighter of ducking the other fighter. I'm not going to get into that talk. I don't feel like... We could go deep with that, and I don't want to get into that. You can make a case for either one's ducking the other, but I really don't feel like Errol Spence is ducking because, he did exactly what he said he was going to do. He got the belts he said he was going to get, and he's offered the man to fight twice now. So, make of that what you want. But the art of avoiding fights until they're lucrative enough for you. Now, I will say that Errol Spence might have avoided certain fights until they were lucrative enough for him. I won't say he ducked Terence Crawford. I will say he might have put fights to the side until they were lucrative enough for him. And I've been telling y'all the whole time, Mayweather's involved with PBC, so whoever was advising Mayweather to do what he was doing is now advising Errol Spence to do what he's doing. And now I'm not saying, once again, that Errol Spence is ducking anybody, but I'm saying he knows the art of putting a fight to the side until it's lucrative enough for him. Okay? Now, Terence Crawford, on the other hand, I think he's using that Mayweather effect a little differently. He's using the Mayweather effect just to stall the fight out, which is basically what Mayweather did to Pacquiao for a long time. He just stalled him out, He wouldn't allow Pacquiao to have anything when it came to them trying to match up with each other. So if Pacquiao wanted a certain blood testing, well, Mayweather would just say, "Oh, I'm not going to put the fight on." If Pacquiao wanted a certain ref, well, then he would come out in the news and accuse Pacquiao of taking steroids, so the fight never happens. There was always something he put in the way of blocking that fight from happening. And now he's come in and starting to put his blocking effects on this Spence and Crawford fight from happening. And I'm not sure why he's doing that. It really has nothing to do with him. He's going to get back-end money off of that fight. So I don't understand why he would even step in and try to affect it. But I do understand that Errol Spence knows his negotiating tactics and knows his stall-out tactics. And I'm not saying that's what Errol Spence is doing, because it's up to Terence Crawford to sign the contract. But like I told y'all before, there might be certain things in that contract that Terence Crawford doesn't want to sign off on. It might be the venue. It might be the purse. It might be the referee. It might be the judges. It might be the drug testing. We just don't know what exactly is in that contract that has made Terence Crawford to this point not want to sign off on it. But we do know up until this point, Terence Crawford hasn't signed off on that fight. So, oh boy, he's bad. So, what's the holdup at this point? What is the holdup of this fight? What is keeping these two tremendous boxers? One's a superstar. The other one, if he wins the fight, will be a superstar. In my mind, a welterweight superstar finally. He's a superstar in the boxing world, just not a welterweight superstar yet. But if he wins, he'll definitely be that. What is holding this fight up now? To me, I'm starting to think maybe the money's not all the way there yet. And no pun intended, I don't mean the Mayweather. I'm literally mean maybe they don't have enough money to pay both fighters what they want. And at that point, I think it would be more on Terence Crawford than it is on Errol Spence. Because if they've already offered him a contract and he's refusing to sign it based off the fact he's not getting enough money, that means there's not enough money in the pool to pay both guys what they want. So, if he's wanting 15, 20 million for this fight, and they're offering him 10, maybe 12 million to fight Errol Spence. And he's like, well, I'm just not going to sign off on this. Then the money's just not there at this point. And they're going to have to... and I've told y'all this before, this fight might not happen in 2022. We might have to drag this out a few more months until we get it. I'm hoping they get it done, but I'm still a little skeptical it's going to happen. And now with this Mayweather effect coming into play, and Mayweather rearing his ugly head and things, and you know, I kind of felt like I was kind of waiting for him to poke his funny little head out and put his 2 cents in on this fight. And I didn't know it would be like this, but I know his pay-per-view, his little fight that he had not too long ago, didn't do very well, and nobody wanted to watch that crap. So I don't know why he would keep these two guys from achieving boxing immortality and boxing history. I can't place I can't place my finger on one reason why he would be doing this to this fight, other than maybe there's not enough money involved to pay both of these guys. And it's sad, man, because these super fights, when they finally take place, they're never as good as what they're built up to be. And it's because they waited too long. One guy might have gotten a little older. His skill sets might have slipped. One guy might not give such a great effort because he's not getting paid as much as he should be. And you know, there's a lot of different factors. But I think this time the Mayweather effect might kill this fight completely. Now, how would that affect Terence Crawford and Errol Spence's career? Let's say this fight doesn't happen at all. Let's say there's just not enough money in boxing anymore to put on another super fight, which there is, but maybe not this super fight. What happens to Terence Crawford and Errol Spence's career? And now I do believe this fight is going to happen. Now, whether it happens in 22 or 23, I think that's the big difference. But if it doesn't happen, then I think the rest of the year for Errol Spence is going to look like this. You're probably going to see Errol Spence. He might end up taking the rest of the year off. You know, he might not even fight again this year because there's no need for him to. Now, he might get forced into a mandatory situation because he is carrying all those belts, and if he can't make the super fight with Terence Crawford, I do see some of those sanctioning bodies stepping in and trying to force him to fight one of his mandatories. Whether it's a good mandatory fight or it's a mandatory fight that he can easily win, you know, that's up in the air and up to those sanctioning bodies. As far as Terence Crawford goes, I would hope that he does take that Manny Pacquiao fight like we discussed a couple of weeks ago. Because I think what that would do is it would build Terence Crawford. Now, here's the thing about that Manny Pacquiao fight that I think people are missing. Is Manny Pacquiao comes with that built-in fan base. And I know a lot of people feel like Manny Pacquiao's done. Now, let's say Manny Pacquiao is done and he just wants another payday fight. And him and Crawford do end up fighting each other. What would happen if Terence Crawford was to win is Terence Crawford's name would be built up to a hype level of people would a whole lot more people would tune in to see that Spence Crawford fight than they would if he hadn't fought Pacquiao and beaten him. So I think both of those guys, and that's my luck with those trains again. I think both of those guys stand to gain from Terence Crawford fighting Manny Pacquiao. Now, if Terence Crawford fought Manny Pacquiao and lost, then that would be tremendously horrible. And would pretty much kill any super fight talks between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. And here's one more thing before I get out of here, because this video is going on too long. Maybe that's what Mayweather Mayweather, Team Spence, PBC, maybe that's their tactic. Maybe that's their tactic. Maybe they feel like they can't beat Crawford. Let's stall him out. Let's get him to fight Pacquiao. Maybe Pacquiao loosens him up a little bit. Even if he doesn't beat him, maybe he loosens him up a little bit. And what if he does beat him? Maybe they feel like, they might actually feel like they can beat Crawford. I think he can beat Crawford. But maybe they feel like, well, we can get this guy out of the way and get him to fight Pacquiao. Perhaps Pacquiao beats him, and then we can just feed Pacquiao to Spence. You know, that's kind of, I feel like that, you know, that would be a tactic they might use. You know, they might actually be using that tactic. Is that a fair tactic to be using? No, this isn't a fair sport at all. Anyway, it's a lot of shadiness in boxing. But, you know, I think that would be a smart fight for Terence Crawford, win or lose. You know, it would be a smart fight because he stands to gain a lot off that fight if he wins, and he stands to lose a lot off that fight if he loses. Now, he can fight Pacquiao and not put his title on the line. He doesn't have to put his title on the line. It could be for pride only. So even if he lost, it wouldn't affect the super fight. But we all know if he was to fight Manny Pacquiao, he would have to put that title on the line. Now, there's the reverse of that. Perhaps Errol Spence ends up fighting Manny Pacquiao because they can't get the super fight to go off. Maybe instead of him going to fight in a mandatory like a Jerron Ennis or Virgil Ortiz or somebody like that, he goes and takes that Pacquiao fight like he was supposed to a year ago, and it didn't happen because of the eye injury or whatever. So, you know, once again, stands to lose a lot if he loses, stands to gain a lot if he wins. And then if the thing about that is that what if Errol Spence beats Manny Pacquiao? Then all the fame and accolades that could have came to Terence Crawford for beating Manny Pacquiao would have once again been lost. The same way he missed out on the Pacquiao fight the first time. The same way he didn't sign off on the Spence fight the first time. The same way he didn't fight Ugas when he was supposed to and missed out on all that, you know, would happen once again. So I would feel like this. I think I'm hoping this fight does happen. I'm optimistic it is going to happen, but there's a chance it might not happen. And if it doesn't, and we have to wait till 2023, so be it. That's it for now. It's your boy Cardinal Bud Crawford, and we are
Got a second, I'm in my zone.